Come, come, yet again come, wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving, it doesn't matter. Ours is not a caravan of despair. Come, even if you've broken your vow 1,000 times. Come, come, yet again come. Rumi. Welcome to the Threaded Caravan. It's Sunday, January 25th, and my name's Teresa. As we come together, I want to name something that I've been pondering since my diagnosis, but really a lot this past week, because it's been kind of a hard week, both in the in the grander scheme of things and in my own initial figuring out about what post-chemo side effects are and that sort of stuff. But the thing that I've been thinking about and I've been pondering is how, for me, the last decade, near decade, has held a deep heartbreak for our world and our country, and how I've held a lot of sadness and even grief and anger and sometimes despair about things, and how I've sometimes not known how to metabolize that in the past, and I still sometimes don't know how to process or metabolize these things. And I do not believe that cancer is caused by negative emotions, or that illness is a punishment for things. But I do believe that our body holds what we carry. And I wonder if my body isn't expressing or maybe even asking me to listen in a different way to what all it's had to carry over the past almost 10 years. And so, and I don't mean that there's not been joy in that, but I just feel like our world has felt so heavy to me. And I do feel like I'm not alone in that, of course, but that for all of us, that may show up in different ways. And but I do think that our bodies hold our emotions, and now my diagnosis is asking me to attend to my body in a different way than I have. So that's been on my mind a lot as I've been trying to support myself these weeks since chemo. I had chemo on the 15th, so I'm like 10 days out, and I think I'm coming. I think I have turned a corner. I keep saying that. And my son will ask me, "How are you doing today?" I'll say, "I think I've turned a corner." And I've said it so much that if it were really true, I'd be going in a circle. But I really do feel like today that I have turned a corner. I'd hoped to do these videos about once a week as a check-in, so that if people are anticipating, have a similar diagnosis or anticipating things, they can sort of track things. I know it's individual, but it had been helpful for me for people to share what they were going through step by step. And so I had hoped that, but 7 days out, I was in no way able to have done this. And I feel like I'm challenged even right now. My brain feels foggy, and I've started the video several times because my words just don't seem to be coming as I hope they would. But I wonder now what I think might be good to share is what the last 10 days have been like for me. Not as a way to scare anybody or say poor me or any of that. It's more just to say, and I know it's individual, but say this is something. If you're feeling this too, if you're going through it, you're not alone. Or heads up, this might be something that you might also experience. Understanding that we're all individual. The day of the infusion, I had 2 traditional kinds of chemotherapy and 2 targeted immunotherapies. Herceptin and Perjeta, I'm going to say that wrong, are the targeted immunotherapies. And then I won't remember the others. I'll put it I'll try to flash it across the screen, but it's the TCHP, I think, is the two traditional chemotherapies and two of the immunotherapies that are my regimen. And so on day one, when I was getting the infusions, it was this long day. I was at the clinic from like at 8 until about 5:30. But my nurse was so wonderful and so kind and knowledgeable, and Andre was with me, and it was just an okay day. I felt really good. There was only a small minor reaction during the T part, the taxa. I'll have to put it in there. The T, one of the chemos, was I had a minor allergic reaction to it. They paused the administering of it, gave me some IV Benadryl, and then slowed the infusion. And so I think that's a part of why. Beyond, I think they just do it slower the first chemo infusion day, so that makes for a longer day. But then that minor allergic reaction slowed things down a bit as well. But I felt fine that day. I felt fine that evening. I felt really fine the next day, and I was thinking that maybe I was gonna feel okay. Like maybe I was gonna be able to manage the chemo with just minor reactions. I was drinking a lot of water, trying to flush out the extra chemo out of my system, and so I wondered if I wasn't so clever with the water, that I would be spared or something. But come day 2, well, it was like the 16th, 17th, and 18th. I still didn't feel terrible. I had a bit of diarrhea. What I noticed is that my energy was pretty okay. I did notice a sense of feeling this internal vibration inside. It didn't exactly feel like anxiety. It felt more like that my internal system was glitching. Like if you see a television and the television glitches, it kind of felt like that's what was going on inside my body. Like there are these, the sensation of this shakiness that felt like a glitch. Like I wasn't really able to read during that time. But it was all pretty minor. It was a little discombobulating, that sense of feeling that internal vibration. I did notice that I didn't really like, and this has persisted throughout, loud noises, and that when people are talking to me, I felt kind of overwhelmed if they talked too much. Like I needed things to be a little slower, or I wanted them to be. Even cello music that I love, and usually find pretty soothing, felt too jarring. And so that was kind of surprising to me. I do like quiet anyway, but it was kind of amplified, that need for things to be slow and quieter than normal, and not like too much coming at me. So, and that persisted. I think maybe I could tolerate it a little better now. But just, and then what I noticed on day, I guess 6 days out or so until yesterday, well, maybe the day before yesterday, I had a whole lot of diarrhea, and I think I wasn't really aggressive in treating it right from the very beginning. And once I started taking the medication that they had given me, like the way they had prescribed it, it slowed up, but I had a good bit of diarrhea. I found myself feeling really vulnerable, like emotionally vulnerable and physically vulnerable. It was this fragility that I haven't felt in a long time emotionally, frankly, and I don't know that I've ever experienced that feeling, maybe after surgery, that feeling of needing to brace physically. But there was definitely this sense of emotional and physical vulnerability that I was feeling. I wasn't really able to sew. I haven't really sewn or read. I was able to listen to a book on Audible, but some of the things that I usually do that I really enjoy, like reading or sewing or listening to music, or walking, I didn't feel up to those things. So in some ways it wasn't, in many ways it wasn't terrible. In many ways it was surprisingly yucky though. And the diarrhea I think was the worst part of it, because I just decided I didn't want to really eat or drink that much because I was afraid when I would that I would go to the restroom. And so, the things I think that supported me through that rough stretch, which I think the roughest stretch really was day 6 through 9. Yeah, because I'm now on day 10 and I feel better, and I do really feel like I've turned the corner. Was And even before, like hot baths felt really good. My husband bought me a heated throw, and that felt really very nice when I just would want to rest. And I did have some bone pain early on too, after I had taken the shot to increase your white blood count. I think the day after chemo, I took my husband administered just a little shot to help me. It's apparently to help your white blood count, your bone marrow activate so that your white blood count doesn't get so low. And that did cause some minor bone pain in the long bones. It's kind of a deep pain, but it wasn't unbearable, and I didn't take Motrin or Tylenol or anything for it, and I was able to manage it. And actually that was not as bad as I anticipated it being. So the things that I found that were helpful were, let me make sure so I don't miss anything to tell you. There was a barrier cream, and I can't remember the name of it, but it's like Vaseline, but it's in a hand lotion sort of thing. What's the name of it? Brain fog, I think it was. In doing the gratitude practice and finding that helpful, it had me thinking a lot about my values and what I want to live. And there's a therapeutic orientation or a therapeutic modality called ACT, Acceptance and Commitment Therapy is what that stands for. And I loved it. I've loved that model when working with my clients, and I really have used it a lot myself, and thinking about and really considering what do I care about? What do I value? What does it look like to live it? Essentially, what the therapeutic modality sort of asks or says is that we kind of hurt where we care, right? Like the places where we really feel a lot of pain is the places where our values are. That often the areas that hold the most pain and pleasure points for us are the areas where we care the most, which makes a lot of sense, right? Like a simple example of that would be like, if I care about connection, if that's a deep value of mine, then it would make sense that I might feel some anxiety when trying to connect to other people, right? Like that if I really, really care about connection, that there may be some difficult emotions that come up when I consider reaching out for connection. And it also may be, when I think about the times where I've had the most pleasure, it may be the times where I'm having a deep conversation with somebody. If I value connection, then that may be a time where I've noticed that I have the most good emotion as well, not just difficult emotion. The problem is, because we're human, we want to avoid pain, and in doing so, which is natural, right? No one wants to feel pain. But the problem is that if we avoid pain, often in trying to avoid pain, we miss out on moving toward what we really care about. Using that same example of of social anxiety or caring about connection and having a social anxiety. For instance, if I care about connection and I feel anxious when I think about, oh no, and I have a thought like I'm going to screw this up, or they're not going to like me, or I'm going to make a dumb video and people are going to think I'm a idiot. If I have those sorts of thoughts, I can't really control those, right? Those are thoughts that might just pop into my head. And if I have those thoughts and I try to avoid them, I might miss out on doing things that are really move me toward my value. And I do value connection or belonging, like I talked about in the first video. And so that will be a place, right, where I think where there will be some pain that will come up around being pushed out or not belonging. And so in that example, let's say someone goes to a party and they really desire connection because it's important to them, but maybe they don't have as much connection as they like. And what happens is they get to the party and they have a lot of this sort of noise happening in their mind about, no one, everybody thinks your outfit looks stupid, whatever the thoughts are that are difficult. And maybe they have the kind of anxiety in their stomach. Maybe they have a bodily sense. So they have a difficult thought. They may have a difficult body sensation or a difficult emotion that comes up for them. Anxiety is very physiologically difficult to be with. Our bodies, it feels really hard to have anxiety in our bodies, right? It's very activating. We feel it, a lot of discomfort in our bodies when we have anxiety. Well, so if that happens and the person tries to avoid feeling those things, they might do several things. They could distract themselves, right? They could stand in the corner and look at their phone. They could opt out. They could go to the bathroom and hide out or say no to the invitation to begin with. They could overthink themselves into a spin. They might use substances to dull those thoughts or feelings. And so all those ways may help them not feel the difficult emotions, but then they also don't get to move toward what they really care about, which is connection. And so the key with ACT or with this therapeutic modality is to deeply know what it is you care about and be willing to move toward it, even if it means having uncomfortable emotions or uncomfortable thoughts or uncomfortable body sensations, to be willing to be with those and still move toward what you really care about. And so what that would look like in that example would be the person feels all the anxiety feelings and they have the thoughts that are difficult to be with, but instead of using those different ways to opt out or to distract or to to do the things to avoid feeling it or thinking it, they are willing to have those and still move toward what they really care about. And so all that to say, I've been thinking a lot about what does it look like in the middle of this hurting world where there's so much sadness and pain and cruelty, in this ill, cancer, in this situation with cancer, which I think is so minor compared to what so many people are going through. But what does it look like in the middle of this, what my life is right now, to move toward what I care about? And so I've kind of been asking myself that every day, like what today is the value that I really care about, that I can live out right in the middle of, going to the bathroom 15 times, or what that really matters to me. And it'll be different for everybody. Everybody's values are different, but what does it look like? What do I really give a crap about? And what does it look like to move toward those things even when things are not how, we would prefer them to be? And so that was a lot of long-winded stuff, and I hope I didn't talk too much at you. But that's what I've been thinking about a lot. Like, what do I really care about? what do I really care about in this moment? What value do I want to live out? And while we sew together, I didn't like how the music was last time. When I re-listened to it, I thought it was kind of annoying. And I do want to sew together today, or y'all do, or just sit together if you don't want to sew, or if you want to paint. I had a friend send me a beautiful picture of her painting while she was watching the YouTube, which really made me cry. But if you want to join in, I'd love for you to do that. And I wanted to I will tell a story about this acceptance and commitment therapy. She didn't frame it that way, but I went to a training. It's been years ago, and this story has stuck with me. Maria Sirois, I think is how you say her name, Sirois, I think, it shared the story, and it sort of fits with the acceptance and commitment therapy stuff that I've been thinking about. But if you don't want to listen to that and you just want to turn the volume down and turn your own music up, and just allow yourself to drop into the moment. And then afterwards we'll come back here and close. But I imagine we can sew together for about 15 minutes or so, or 10 minutes or so.
Hours later.
I machine sewed. It's got hair all over it from our animals. I machine sewed the vertical lines just to get some stabilization to it. And now I'm just picking hearts that I want to go around. And I think this is the one that I'm going to hand quilt around. I ended up getting tired yesterday, so I didn't finish up the video. And so it's my phone. Let me see if I can turn that on. Do not disturb. So I guess we'll just begin here. And I think when I finished, I was telling you all about a story that was told, a true story, by Maria. I can't think of how to say her name. It's Sirois or Sirios. I'll put her name in there. She's an author and a psychologist, and she does trainings on resilience, and that's what she was talking about, resilience. And in the training, she shared that her brother was very ill and dying, and that she decided to, I think he had limited weeks, that they were aware that he was likely going to die within a week. And so she decided to go be with him and help. And on the way there, she was thinking about how she would show up in a way that she wouldn't regret afterwards. Like, she knew it was going to be a hard time, and she knew it was very important that she showed up in a way that was really congruent for her, and to be there for her brother in a way that she knew she'd show up the best that she could for him. And she decided that she would choose one. She thought she might be overwhelmed, I think is what she shared. I can't remember this part specifically, of course, but I'm guessing that's what she shared, because I think it would be overwhelming, right, to be with someone you love as they're passing. And so she decided that something that sort of could be like a rope, a tether that she could hold to throughout that time, would be to every day show up exemplifying or embodying a value that she thought was really important. And I think it was a value and not a strength, but it might have been a strength. But in my memory, it was a value. And she thought about different values that she held, which really important values for her. Like, I think one of them she mentioned was compassion is a big value for her, and she thought about what it would be like to really show up with compassion at the fore. And she thought about her own pain in his passing and how that might overwhelm her if she tried to show up compassionate for herself and everybody there. And so she thought about other values that she had and how she might pick a different one. And so she kind of went through the different values and thought about which one might be the, and I know she didn't use this terminology, but kind of the best handle or best fit for that situation, where she knew that if she lived out that value, she wouldn't have any regrets, that she'd show up holding on to a value that she really cared about and being there for her brother in a way that was meaningful. And so she landed on perseverance or determination. I can't remember which she said, but essentially the same sort of value. And what she decided that the action that would embody that value is that once a day she was going to get her brother, at least once a day, something that he wanted or needed, that she would use her value and strength, I'm sure, of dogged determination to get him what he wanted, whatever it was, that would be every day. If she couldn't do anything else, she was going to use her value of perseverance to get him one thing he wanted or needed that day. And so she shared about how, in doing so, it didn't take away the hardness, of course, of what they were facing, but it gave her something to hold to as a way to be there for him in an important, meaningful way, but also kind of keep her moored and feeling like she could do something that was values congruent for her. And that story has stuck with me because I just think it's can there be anything harder, right, than being there with somebody who you love who's dying, and that Maria had found that use of values. Our dog is scratching. Bear's itchy. If if it could, I really felt like when she was sharing that if values can help in dire situations like that, then in the everyday sort of things that we face, how powerful it could be to be really intentional about what values we are holding to, or making actionable. And anyway, that I thought was a beautiful story and a tender story, and I just wanted to share that. And I just realized I have no idea of knowing when 10 minutes or so have passed, but I guess what I'll do is get around this heart, however long that takes. Just enjoy it. And if you were here, we were together, I would be wondering about what sort of values you feel like are at the fore in your life, and how we do or don't live them out, right? I know in my own life, looking back, when I have lived really congruent with what I hold as my deepest values, I've felt better about myself, and at times where I haven't. I'm thinking of one time when the kids were really small, especially, and I wasn't living out a value of equanimity and compassion with the kids. I was kind of struggling, I think, with depression myself, and grumpy, and more yelling than I know is good. And I really feel like not living congruent with my value of being loving, especially to my kids. I mean, I would love to them, but I wasn't speaking in loving ways to them. I was rushing them and just short-tempered. And I think it really contributed to my depression at that time. So anyway, if y'all were here, I'd be wondering about if y'all have times like that too, where you've noticed in your own life when you're living congruent with what you really care about, and times when you're not living congruent with what you really care about. My stitches are so messy and big, but I like hand stitching. I hardly hand quilt anything. I have a great quilter that I send my quilts off to, and I love what she does. And I haven't, I don't know if I don't think at the end of the year I had very many finishes are not finishes, very many, I guess finished quilt tops that I sent off. I don't think I did. I worked on this one a lot because I started it when I was with my mom, and I cut out a lot of hearts from scraps from quilts that I had made, and some I bought just to get the right colors, and maybe some colors I didn't have, and I felt like this is kind of a copy of a laundry basket quilt that I saw a picture of, and I don't know exactly how they made it, but mine are just 5-inch square whites, and so I had a bunch of those, and then I cut a bunch of hearts out with a large AccuQuilt heart, the heart AccuQuilt large heart, and then I just did needle turned embroidery, so it was something I could really do when I was sit with my mama last year, and I really enjoyed doing it with her. And she got some great news this past week. Her in 2025, I think it was mid-2025, I'd have to look back. I have looked back, and now I've forgotten exactly. We found out that my mom's breast cancer had metastasized to her spine and her adrenal gland and her lymph node, or a lung node. I'm not sure if it's a lymph node near the nut lung. And then we found out on Tuesday, my sister and her husband took my mom to her oncology appointment, and they found out that the scan is clear. And so I know they don't say cure, and they're continuing. They've stopped the chemo portion, and they're only doing the immunotherapy now because they think that's what she's responding to. And I think they said something like super responder or something like that. So we are so thankful and thrilled and over the moon. And she knew she was feeling good and not having back pain and some of the things that she'd been having before she started the immunotherapy and the chemo. But we didn't know, that the scan was going to come back clear. And so we were so happy. There's so many wonderful, I think, advances that they've made in cancer treatment. And I don't know, I've read a little, but just the immunotherapy is remarkable. I'm thankful that I am able to also receive that different kind, but the kind of targeted immunotherapy for the kind of cancer that I have, that especially that HER2 positive piece. So I have felt better today, even than I did yesterday. So like I said yesterday, I think I really am turning the corner. I'm so thankful to have some good days. And I think today's day 12 for me, this first cycle. And each treatment's 21 days, and that's just how my mom was too. At first, they were trying to do the chemo every week and the immunotherapy every 21 days, but she couldn't tolerate that because her white blood count would go too low. But she tolerated the 21-day cycle really well. And now with just getting the immunotherapy, I think it's going to be that much easier. And I'm so thankful for that. I made it around that one. I did it pretty fast. I usually go slower, but I'm going to stitch across there and maybe even down there. I'm trying to do the hand stitching around the hearts and on the horizontal lines. Let me see. Yeah, I think last week when things were so tough, the value of gratitude, I just try to embody it by writing notes to people that I love and people who had supported me in different ways, and I'm so thankful for that. I feel like it has carried us. But yeah, so I wish you all a great week, and I wonder, hopefully we can circle back around and be together again soon. Thank you for joining me. It's wonderful to feel accompanied.